gap.
Close-ish.
Yeah, not. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, Knowles is the best player that wears 13 in his side in the competition. Just whether he was the best loose forward in 2022 for me, I'm not so sure, but I'm pleased that we have him in the England squad for the World Cup.
Me too. We're going to need him.
Now, if we could play that team in the World Cup as the England team, how do we think they'd go, guys?
I think they'd do pretty bloody well.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, they'd be right up there. They'd be right up there.
They would.
And in reality,
sadly,
Makinson will be playing in the World Cup. Hopefully, he plays well. Aledzki will be playing in the squad.
Just the three of them.
And Morgan Knowles will be available after the first match. No, he's available straight away, isn't he? Sorry, actually.
He is, because he didn't play. He didn't play on Friday.
He didn't play against Fiji, so he'll be on the bench in the first game, I think, when Sean Wayne names his side tomorrow. Okay, finally, the big one, the Dr. Bob Phillips Award for Listener of the Year. Sarah, do you want to take us through the previous winners, and this explains why it's called the Dr. Bob Phillips Award?
Okay, so 2014, Dr. Bob Phillips won it. 2015, Dr. Bob Phillips won it. 2016, Dr. Bob Phillips won it. 2017, Dr. Bob Phillips won it. 2018, Fat Boy Rob won it. 2019, Fat Boy Rob won it. 2020, Tom Andrews won it. And 2021, Fat Boy Rob won it.
Okay, so what I would say is this is one of the votes that gets the least amount of votes. I think because people don't always remember the names of people, and there were a few votes that I had to interpret and work out who they meant. But thanks everyone who did vote in this, and thanks for all the recognition for everyone who's been a part of the SLP community, an active part of the SLP community this year. 18 people got votes all told. So, Always in Our Shadow, Callum the Wigan drummer, Dr. Bob, EFC78JU, Esther, Frogmore, Greg Eden. Why did Greg Eden get a vote? How have I included that one? He doesn't
Definitely listens.
Joshua's granddad was voted for. Karsten, Mark, which I'm going to assume is Mark, the Huddersfield fan, rather than Mark me, because I don't listen, I talk. I do listen to you guys, but I don't listen to the show. Matt Speakman, Neil Ormston, Paul O'Brien, Paul Craig, St David and Scoots. Of course, you only listen 2/3 of the time, but you do listen, so you've got votes as well. I think I'm not. I've read them all out there, haven't I? Always in Our Shadow, Callum, Dr. Bob, EFC, Esther, Frogmore, Greg, Sarah's dad, Karsten, Mark, Matt Speakman, Neil Olsen, Paul O'Brien, Paul Michael Craig, St David and Scoots. But the winner, thanks to having multiple personalities, it paid off for David Hunter, who also played us as NRL Review. He also got a vote as being Hypothetic RL, who is his podcast, David's podcast about rugby league. But he got 27% of the votes across the three options that people voted for him for. But it is all him, even though the curtain has been pulled down on the greatest ruse of the season. And when we got a message from Paul Craig telling us that it was actually him all along, do you remember, Alan, were you on the show with me that week?
Yes, I was. Yes.
And do you remember me saying I don't fully believe it?
I remember us being definitely incredulous about it.
Yeah, well, there was a good reason to not fully believe it, because it was David Hunter still all along. But he sent Paul a message saying, I think it'd be funny if I did this. Is that okay by you? And Paul said, yeah, I don't give a shit. Basically. So I suppose for all of the effort he went to for that, David has earned his
He deserves it.
his Listener of the Year award. Several people voted for themselves, so their votes didn't count. One person,
Go on.
whose vote also didn't count, voted for anyone but Fatboy Rob because they didn't want Rob winning a fourth title. That is vindictive stuff.
Oh, Dr. Bob, I expected more.
I thought it would be Tom, actually.
I can't remember who it was, but I do think it was neither of those two.
Yes, Dr. Bob would never lower himself to those kind of things.
No, who did Dr. Bob vote for? This could be a turning moment. No, he didn't vote for anyone but Fatboy Rob. But well done to David Hunter.
Yes, well done.
NRL review definitely kept us entertained and on our toes. Here Comes the Rain Again was always my favourite. So well done, David. That is the 9th annual Sloppies wrapped up. We're going to have a mini break. We're going to whiz through revisiting some predictions, and then we're going to say goodbye. So, see you after the music. Let's revisit some predictions that we made at the start of the year. It's always fun to look back and see how right or wrong we were. I think this year, for me, personally, it was mostly wrong because I remember specifically saying that I didn't think Wigan will be in year 2 of a 3-year trophyless period, and that wasn't my worst prediction. Alan, do you want to take us through the first bullet point we've got around predictions?
Yes, so St Helens were the favourite for the League Leaders Shield and Super League title. 37% of people got it right. The Saints would win it again, including David and Mark. David obviously went for them finishing top 2, although in one of the worst ever predictions, Mark had Warrington taking the League Leaders Shield.
What was I thinking?
Bow your head in shame.
Hold out for it next year.
They finished 11th. So I forgot to put both ones in that particular box. But 9% of people have Wigan winning the Challenge Cup final. They're an elite group. None of us are in that elite group. David, I assume you went for St Helens.
I did.
Yeah. So
I was winning everything.
There is a big shout out to Matt Speakman, Barney, so 2 Wigan fans, and Steve Clark, who I think is a Cast fan off the top of my head. The only 3 listeners to predict all 3 of the men's trophy winners correctly. So they picked Saints to win the League Leaders Shield in the Grand Final and Wigan to win the Challenge Cup.
Well done.
Let's get going.
Yeah. Sarah, do you want to take us through the Man of Steel and where the guesses fell for that?
Yeah, so one person, Salford fan John Pemberton, guessed Brodie Croft would win the Steve Prescott Man of Steel. Mitchell Pearce had been the most fancied guest back before the season began.
He was far off, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well done, John, for having the foresight. What about in the Championship, David?
So in the Championship, 30% got Lee winning promotion right. Featherstone had been a little more fancied, though, before Lee went on a big spending spree after the season started. David was the only one of us to guess Lee.
Talking about yourself in the third person there.
Yes, I am.
He's going full Ron Burgundy, isn't he?
I also have to say it was not based on any real knowledge. It was just based on a bit of guesswork. Barney and Steve Clark are still on the money as they were in Super League.
I think we were suckered in with the Featherstone spending spree, Al, weren't we? And then Lee did all their big spending after they lost to Featherstone in week 1 of the season.
Yeah, it was definitely back in those dim, distant, dark days of February, Featherstone were way better than Leigh. They demolished them. I think it was week 2, but yeah, they absolutely demolished them. But yeah, that's before Uncle Derek got his checkbook out. So,
what about in League One, Al?
Yeah, so actually Keighley was second favourites to win League One. David was in the 18% that picked them. Sadly, Barney and Steve's run ended there as they didn't go for Keighley.
I wonder if they went for Swinton. I mean, you could get a sort of silver medal for going for Swinton. I went for Swinton, who got promoted, but not as the winners. So, yeah. Sarah, what about in the Women's Super League?
Yeah, in the Women's Super League, it was... Sorry, I've just lost my page. There we go. St Helens had been overwhelming favourites for the Super League, for the Women's Super League, but they didn't even make the grand final. 15% went for Leeds at the start of the year, and Alan was one of those 18%.
Good shout, Alan.
Yeah, what made you foresee that when Saints were so powerful?
Guess.
You just envisaged them deciding Jodie Cunningham wasn't quite fit enough to play in a game that was a must-win game for some strange reason.
Even a stopped clock is right twice a day. You know what they say?
Well, a few people that were right as well. Right-ish, let's say right-ish. When we did the predictions, we had the say what prediction for things that are kind of a bit silly, bit, more fun, what have you. And part of Dr. Bob's say what was that the Channel 4 coverage would turn into a runaway success. And I think it's fair to say Channel 4 coverage has been a success with rugby league fans, but also had an impact, I guess, with more people getting more eyes on the sport too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's been a huge positive this year, Channel 4, hasn't it? Huge positive.
Joshua's granddad, Sarah's dad, John, to other people, he made a guess that I'm fairly certain we called out at the time when it happened. He obviously didn't expect this to happen at all, but he said that FC to win a game involving the Liam Moore, Chris Kendall refereeing combo. And I'm pretty sure there was a game that either one was ref and one was video ref, or one was ref and one was touch judge, that you won this year, Sarah. So that hoodoo is broken. That has gone.
To be fair, there's not that many to review to check it, is there?
And Paul Wilson, he was close with this one. I mean, probably it should have happened by now. But he guessed Ralph Rimmer would resign. Now, Ralph Rimmer is leaving his role. I suppose it's a resignation at the end of this year. That's how it was sort of put out, wasn't it? It wasn't put out as a sacking or anything like that. He obviously wants his free tickets to the World Cup, even though he doesn't respect the teams that are in the World Cup. Otherwise, he would have resigned within the last fortnight. But that was a good shout by Paul, wasn't it? Not even funny, really. Just bang on.
Yeah. I have to say, when I saw the on our league, the headline that said Ralph Rimmer Awards Dinner statement, I thought, they're not giving him an awards dinner. I was like,
almost.
That would be a rugby league thing to do, to say, even in these circumstances. Oh yeah, he's gonna have a nice fundraiser.
They're paying for him to go back to school for 3 months. So, I mean, if they'd have given him one awards night and sent him off, that might have been better. I don't know. Some that didn't age so well. None of these didn't age as well as my fucking Warrington prediction, but Rich Langers said Super League to go the whole year with no embarrassing off-field transgressions by players or officials. In brackets, this applies only once the season kicks off. I don't know if those brackets could have extended to say until the season ends as well, but actually, Rimmers came within the last week of the season, didn't it? But
yeah.
Brad Takarangi messed this one up, didn't he, really, in the middle of the year? So yeah, I think he knew, in his heart of hearts, Langers knew that was never going to be one that won. Dr. Hideous was one of a few people who predicted that Toulouse won't have to worry about relegation. And Lister of the Year, David Hunter.
Don't worry about it.
They didn't have to worry about it. It just happened. Actually, flip back to that. So we haven't talked about the IMG stuff. Part of the IMG stuff